All right, we had a nice refreshing night here at the Hampton Inn in Great Falls. We're taking off for Glacier National Park here in probably about half an hour, 45 minutes. We're gonna try to get out of here by 8 o'clock this morning. We have a longer day than I originally planned today because we couldn't make it all the way to Glacier National Park last night. But yeah, we swam in the pool, ordered some pizza, took showers, did laundry. We stayed pretty busy actually while we were here. But we're all refreshed and reloaded, and we're gonna try to do some hiking today. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, Miles is very excited to go through this tunnel. We're on the Going to the Sun Road. So far, all of the spots have been full, where we could actually stop and have lunch.
It's a waterfall. Right?
Whoa, yeah. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Doing the tunnel for Miles. Oh, it's just a baby one. That's the road over there.
All right, everyone. So after reviewing, the footage that we had left of this day, I decided I need to kind of intervene and add some color to what's going on here, because sometimes, or a lot of the times when you're taking these trips, especially when like stressful things are happening, you're not going to be recording. And Glacier ended up being kind of a pain in our side from the very beginning, because it's just so busy during this time of year. We were probably there on one of the busiest days of the year. So we knew that, but our original plan was to camp inside the park. So, we would have an early start. We get to spend most of the day there and then leave and camp a little ways outside of the park. But since they don't take reservations in most of the campgrounds there, I wasn't able to secure a camping spot, and we ended up staying at the hotel in Great Falls. So what that did was put us a couple hours, worth of driving time behind, and so we had a very narrow window of about 4 or 5 hours that we could spend in the park. And it was basically not the original plan, but the secondary plan was to try to do a hike to Avalanche Lake. So we were gonna go to the visitor center, then drive on Going to the Sun Road, which is a very cool road to drive on. One side is basically like a sheer cliff that you drive along, and the other side gives you, these awesome views of the lake and the mountains and everything. So the secondary plan was to stop and hike to Avalanche Lake with the kids, which would be like a couple hour hike. Back in the mountains, we'd get to do some actual kind of mountain hiking, maybe see some wildlife, see like a glacier or a glacial lake, and do all that, and that would be kind of our activity for the day. So we wanted to do one activity in Glacier other than just driving through. But that plan was fairly quickly we knew it was going to be busy. Okay, so we knew that we might not be able to find a parking place at the trailhead, and once we started driving on the road, we realized it was far busier than we had ever imagined. It was bumper to bumper traffic pretty much the entire way. Every place you could possibly pull over on the road was full of cars. There's a visitor center at, I think it's Logan Pass, like, way up on the top of the mountain road anyway. That was completely full. You couldn't even pull into the parking lot. It had it blocked off. So we got to the point where, the kids needed to use the bathroom, and we could barely find a place to pull over for them. It wasn't until we were, 2/3 of the way through the park we could even find a spot to pull over. That's how busy it was. The trailhead that we were originally going to stop at had not only full of cars, but there was like shuttle bus after shuttle bus dropping hikers off, and you could tell that it was just going to be a zoo. That was our backup plan, to go to the visitor center and take the shuttle up if we couldn't find a parking place. But we realized when we drove by that it just wasn't going to happen. It was just going to be too much of a hassle. So after we had gone about 2/3 of the way through the park, or actually, let me back up a little bit here to another kind of side story that's going on at the same time. Okay, so the other side story is that about a week or a week and a day before we were leaving on this trip, I found out that I had a fragment of a kidney stone that I had blasted out last, it was like around Christmas, New Year's time. So I had a big kidney stone blasted up, and most of it was gone, but there was one big chunk of it left, and it had moved down and was causing me some pain. And I thought it was small enough I could maybe pass it before we left on our trip, but I hadn't yet. And my doctor said he could get me in to treat it and blast it out like the next day or something. So 1 week before the trip, I went in and had surgery, and that same day, so I was under anesthesia and all that stuff. So that same day I came out, I had the car scheduled to go in to be inspected just to make sure everything was in working order. So I had a full week to kind of get everything ready. Well, I couldn't do that, so I had Heather take the car in. And one of the things that I asked for them to check out was there's a very slight rubbing noise on one of the coming from like the right passenger side wheel area. It sounded like the brakes might just barely be rubbing. You could only hear it if you were driving really slowly and you had the windows down. You couldn't even hear it if the windows were up. So this was like a Friday afternoon, and I don't know if the guys just didn't want to deal with it, which is my guess, but they told Heather that whatever it was wouldn't interfere with the braking of the car. She told them she was driving across the country. They said it would be fine, but they didn't have time to basically inspect it to find out exactly what it was that was causing that. So as we're driving on this windy mountain road at 35 miles an hour, we weren't going very fast because of so much traffic. There's basically a sheer rock wall on the right-hand side of the car. And of course we had the windows down enjoying it was a beautiful day. And the noise I didn't know if it was echoing because it was echoing off the rock that we could hear it so much better, but it had grown much louder by the time we were on our way down the mountain. So, we were assured it would be okay, but, there's some doubt kind of creeping into the mind at that point. So it added a little bit of extra stress. So not only do we kind of have this noise coming from the car, we're hungry. We can't even find a spot to pull over and have a picnic. And we had left quite a bit earlier in the morning. We couldn't even get out and take pictures. It was really kind of starting to suck, and it was looking like we weren't going to have a place to do that before we left. So I finally found a spot for, to use the bathroom and got back in the car. We were just getting almost to the exit point of the park, and Vivian really wanted to get down and play in the river. And every now and then there'd be like a little tiny spot I might be able to like get the car off it, and sort of a cliff that you could climb down. And I just kept thinking to myself, there has to be a better spot than this to do our thing. It I just had confidence that we could figure something out even with all these people. And so I rejected Heather and Vivian's plea to just pull over and kind of go find a spot close to the river. And I pulled the car over and I looked at the map and I just said, I know I can find something. So when I looked at the map, there was another side of the lake that had a road that partially went around the lake. And I could tell that, people that were just taking tours or just driving through like we originally planned to wouldn't drive over to this side necessarily at all. So I said, this is going to be our spot. We're going to go check this spot out as our last resort before we have to leave or before we go to the visitor center and just eat there. So I kept everybody kind of just barely under control until we got there. And it really lucked out, and it turned out to be just a fabulous spot on the other side of the lake. We got to go down. Not only did we have bathrooms, we had a parking place. We had picnic table all to ourselves. We had a beach with not very many people on it. We were able to go swimming in the lake. We got some great pictures. And we were really able to just kick back and relax. And since we hadn't stopped the entire time, other than at the visitor center at the other side of the park, we were able to just really have a great afternoon of, enjoying kind of the park and everything. So it ended up working okay, and I think our travel experience really kind of helped. We have some experience kind of looking for places, knowing kind of how stuff works. And it was looking pretty dire. We were really on plan C or plan D by the time we finally lucked out and had something kind of turn our way. But it ended up being a great day, and we finally got that family picture that we didn't get on our last trip and that we had tried like a couple other times this trip to get. So here you get to see the family picture, and you get to see me kind of talking about the spot that we found, and then we'll move on to our campground for the night. All right, we made it all the way through Glacier National Park. It was very, very busy. This has to be probably one of the busiest days of the year. We couldn't really barely find a spot to pull over. We had a hike planned for today. Potentially, we knew it might be busy, but it was too busy to stop. We would have had to shuttle up, and it would have taken like 3 or 4 hours. So I glanced at the map. Everybody was getting kind of grouchy. We were getting ready to exit the park, but I glanced at the map and I saw a little side road, and I'm like, we're gonna give that a shot. So we drove a little bit around the lake, and as you can see on this stretch of beach, there is nobody here. Well, we have a few people on the other side, and then we have a little picnic table up here, and so we were able to have a little picnic. Bathrooms. Vivian's swimming in the water behind me, eating a peanut butter jelly. I think I'm gonna put my swimsuit on and take a little dip here too. If I peeked around the corner here, you could see the big tall mountains. I might get a shot of that here in just a minute. Hey, we made it in about 6:30, 7 o'clock or so to the Kootenai campground. This is a private campground. I think this is the only private one we're staying at other than a KOA on this trip.
It has Wi-Fi connection.
Vivian's happy because it has a Wi-Fi connection and a stripper pole, and Heather's busy making up the tent, but it's pretty warm out here. There's just a tiny breeze. And tomorrow we're going to be hitting Idaho and Washington.